Let's start with the strange and slowly work our way toward the most horrifying things on the list. Number 6. The Monster Study. Our first case involves the most vulnerable subjects, children. In 1939, at the University of Iowa, researcher Wendell Johnson and his graduate student Mary Tudor conducted a study on stuttering. They selected 22 orphans from a local home. The children were divided into two groups. One received positive speech therapy. The other group, children with perfectly normal speech, were subjected to a relentless 6-month regimen of negative feedback. They were told their speech was flawed, that they were stutterers, and criticized for every minor hesitation. The result was devastating. These children developed severe anxiety, social withdrawal, and began exhibiting real speech problems that persisted throughout their lives. The experiment succeeded only in creating the pathology it claimed to study. It was later dubbed the Monster Study by Johnson's own colleagues, a stark example of how psychological manipulation on vulnerable subjects can cause lifelong damage. Number 5. The Stanford Prison Experiment. This case demonstrated how quickly a system can corrupt ordinary individuals. In 1971, psychologist Philip Zimbardo created a simulated prison in the basement of Stanford University. He recruited 24 mentally stable male students and randomly assigned them as guards or prisoners. The guards were given uniforms and authority. The prisoners were stripped of their identities. The planned 2-week study was terminated after only 6 days. Why? Because the guards, empowered by their roles, began devising cruel and degrading tasks for the prisoners: sleep deprivation, humiliation, solitary confinement. The prisoners, in turn, showed signs of extreme stress and emotional breakdown. The study revealed how situational forces and perceived power can override personal morality, leading to abusive behavior. It became a pivotal case for implementing stricter ethical oversight in behavioral research. Number 4. The Tuskegee Syphilis Study. This case represents a profound breach of trust between medical institutions and the public. In 1932, the U.S. Public Health Service, in partnership with the Tuskegee Institute, began a study on the natural progression of untreated syphilis. They enrolled 600 African-American men in Alabama, 399 with the disease, and 201 without. The men were told they were being treated for bad blood and were offered free meals, medical exams, and burial insurance. They were not informed of their true diagnosis, nor were they given effective treatment, even after penicillin became the standard cure in 1947. For 40 years, researchers actively prevented participants from accessing treatment, observing as the disease caused blindness, insanity, and death. The study was exposed by a whistleblower in 1972, leading to public outrage, a federal lawsuit, and a complete overhaul of regulations to protect human subjects in research, emphasizing informed consent and justice. Number 3. MKUltra case. This case involved the covert use of citizens in secret government research. Project MKUltra was a Central Intelligence Agency program launched to study mind control and behavioral modification. Over 2 decades, the CIA conducted hundreds of sub-projects, often through front organizations at universities, hospitals, and prisons. A central focus was testing psychoactive drugs, primarily LSD, on unwitting human subjects. Individuals were dosed without their knowledge or consent. The program also explored hypnosis, sensory deprivation, and isolation. One notable subject, U.S. Army biochemist Frank Olson, was given LSD without his knowledge. He suffered a severe psychological crisis and died days later in a fall from a hotel window. When the program was investigated in the 1970s, the CIA had already destroyed most of its files. MKUltra demonstrated the extreme lengths institutions might go to in secret, sacrificing individual rights for perceived national security objectives. Number 2. The Aversion Project. This case illustrates the use of medical science for systematic discrimination. During the apartheid era in South Africa, the military's psychological establishment classified homosexuality as a mental illness and a security risk. From the 1970s through the 1980s, a program now known as the Aversion Project was conducted. Gay soldiers and conscripts were referred to military psychiatrists where they were subjected to so-called curative therapies. These included aversion techniques, where subjects were shown same-sex imagery while administered electric shocks or nausea-inducing drugs. Some were subjected to hormonal treatments or even irreversible sex change surgeries without full, informed consent. These actions, sanctioned by the state, used medical authority not to heal, but to enforce a social and political ideology, causing deep and lasting harm to the individuals involved. Number 1. Unit 731. The final case represents the furthest extreme of human experimentation. Unit 731 was a covert biological and chemical warfare research unit of the Imperial Japanese Army during the Second World War. Based in occupied Manchuria, it operated under the guise of a water purification unit. Its researchers conducted large-scale experiments on thousands of civilians and prisoners of war. These experiments included testing plague and cholera bombs, performing vivisections on conscious subjects, studying frostbite and gangrene, and exposing individuals to lethal doses of radiation. The data was gathered for the development of weapons. After the war, the United States granted immunity from prosecution to the unit's lead researchers in exchange for their scientific data. Unit 731 stands as a historical example of scientific inquiry being completely divorced from ethical boundaries and human dignity, pursued on an industrial scale during a time of conflict.